It's on now, yeah, it's working.
Just this one's not working.
They're on. Is it on?
That one?
Podium's the only one not working.
That was not working? That's the only one that's gonna work.
All right, let me check everybody. So this.
I'll try the podium.
Try the podium.
Nothing yet. See if that works.
Table's working. I say that, they all should be working. Got it. All right, and this one's working. It's that mic.
We got everything.
Is this one okay to stand below?
Yeah, that's good.
I don't think we need it. Okay, this is a public hearing workshop for the new planning zoning ordinance for the city of Easley. And just a little groundwork. If you want to speak, you need to come up to the podium, name and address. Everybody's going to get, since it's public hearing, we want everybody to be able to talk if they want to. You get about 3 minutes, and you get one chance to come up. So with that, I'm just going to turn it on over to Mario, our city planner.
Welcome you all. My name is Mario Pietro. I'm the city Easley planner, just trying to figure out some difficulties here. Am I good? Can you lower that volume a little bit? Turn that volume. Okay, you're good. What we're gonna do here tonight is go over the draft of the City of Easley ordinance. Basically, what I'm gonna do to begin with is go through the major changes in the draft. And then, once we get that done, we'll have questions. And then, well, not questions, we'll have 3 minutes to speak about what you think. The draft has been online, and just give us some input back from the people of Easley, South Carolina. And then what we'll do is we'll run through the major changes, and then we'll open it up to the public. Again, this is a draft. Once the draft is finalized, it'll go back to the planning commission. Once the planning commission reviews it and approves it, it will go to city council for their review. So we'll try to do this as succinctly as possible. And I'll go through the major changes. At this time, we are adding an APT zone. The APT zone will be for apartments, and apartments only. So that's number one. Number two is a density change for all residential zones. The number one we're changing is the GR2 zone, which is, well, I'll go from the start. R10 currently is 4.3 units per acre. The R10 zone is a 10,000 square foot lot. The minimum width of that lot is 80 feet. Right now it's 4.3. We propose making it 3.0 max. I'm not. I'm going over the major changes, then we'll go through as we go through it. So the R10 zone is 4. is 4.3, we're going to 3 units max. We are going to have a zone that is dependent on acreage. So the smaller the acreage, the more the density. So at this time, R10 zone, it will be 3 units per acre. The R7.5, which is currently 5.5, will go to 2.75. I'll put this on the board. My mouse isn't working, so give me a second. So the R.75 is going to go from 5.5 to 2.75. The RPH, which is currently 7.25, will go to 3 units max per acre. Let me double check that one. I'm sorry, it's going to 4 units per acre, max, which is, this is how we're looking at doing it right now. So we have 1 to 4.99 acres, we'll have one number. 5 acres to 9.99 acres, we'll have another density. 10 to 24 acres, we'll have another density. 25 to 99 acres is another density, and 100 to 500 acres is another density. So we're looking to try to do this, is trying to get as the land is smaller, we're gonna get more dense. And with maximum densities at the bottom line, which is RPH is 2.5, R7.5 is 1.75, R10 is 1.5, GR1 is 2, GR2 is 2, and apartments are 5 per 100 acres. Now, if you look at the same thing, look 1 to 4.9, the RPH is 4, the R.75 is 2.75, R10 is 3, GR1 is 4, GR2 is 5, and APT is 10. What we're trying to do there is trying to have the area that is smaller to have just a little more density than the larger land. As the land gets bigger, we get more apprehensive when you go to larger numbers. Give you an example, if it's 100 acres, we'd rather not have the current 4.3 or 5.5 or 7.25 acres. So we're trying to make it, give us a little bit more leverage on how to also develop the land. We don't have it shown here, but the FRD is 7. The neighborhood commercial is 3. The office institutional is 3. And those are not based upon a scaling density. Those are based upon direct densities only. So you have neighborhood commercial is 3, office institutional is 3, and FRD is 7. The neighborhood commercial and the office institutional are basically commercial zones. And what we want to do with that is we want to add the ability to put in a second level apartment type or a townhouse type on top of that. That's what that's basically for. So those are the major revisions we have with regards to density. We added the FRD ordinance, and if someone wants to come in with a different type, you can go to an FRD. The FRD is a flexible review, and it gives the ability to do something different. Right now, these are all single-family houses, townhome developments, condos. So we want to give the flexibility to do something different. I think it's going to be very similar to what we're doing with the RPH 6 right now, and I'll get into that a little later on. I'll get into it right now. The revision for the RPH 6, what it's doing is it's limiting the densities. But additionally, we're looking to create a possibility of doing a cluster type development where you have smaller lots, more open space, more green space, traffic calming devices. We're looking at having additional parking, off-street parking for visitors. If you notice in the subdivision we have now, there's very limited parking off-site. So, on-site, I mean, so you're at house and you have people parking in front of your house all the time. We're adding, and that's what we're gonna do in the R7.5, RPH6, the GR1, and the GR2. So instead of having just parking in front of the dwelling or the dwelling unit, we're going to have additional spaces for overflow parking. In the GR1 zone, we added duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. We felt that it's appropriate to not, they were being, GR1 was basically our area for mobile homes. And that's basically, we want to put mobile homes and single family only in there. So we felt there's a lot of land in there that was limited to creating infill in those areas, which means we don't have to reach out our utilities. It saves us time because we're picking up trash there, we're picking up doing all the services right now. So we want to try to infill some empty lots where people want to take out lots and put new lots in or homes in. We're separating the bed and breakfast requirements from each zone, and it's going to be its own self-standing zone. We're looking into the establishment of tiny home ordinance, which will be a separate ordinance reference into this. We looked at changing the way people build their driveways. Right now, we're seeing a lot of slopes that exceed 20%. The widths are too narrow to take houses, and the length is, we have a lot of parking on sidewalks. We looked at the buffer yards. We realized that those buffer yards, while needed and will still be used, there's a lot of mature planting that happens there, and what happens is that planting just overgrows. So we're trying to figure out how a better way to do that. We're gonna also use a registered landscape architect if you want to make any change to the buffer, and prefer to do that. We prefer to do the landscape architect in the designs. The last one is, it's gonna be decided by the council if we're gonna continue or reinstate the Board of Architecture review. Currently, they do not meet. So that gives you an overview of what we want to do. So I'll try to go through each one of these briefly, just to add on to it. And I'll start with the R10. Like I said, the first thing we're gonna do is try to change the densities up or reduce them significantly. We feel that it's appropriate. A lot of the subdivisions look around right now are in the 3, 4, 5 range. Apartments, right now they're 14, we're gonna go down to 10 for a smaller development. We may even make the apartments 5 acres to do apartments on it, but something we're still looking into. So again, the R10 zone is the zone that was the most prevalent years ago. It was 10,000 square foot. You're starting to see those go away simply because the cost of the land is higher, the cost of development is higher, and the cost of lots when they're finished is higher. So you're seeing less and less development of those lots simply for those reasons. Not to say you can't do it, and some people still want to do it, but you're looking at lots probably in the range of $60,000 to $80,000 nowadays with those. Again, we took away the bed and breakfast in that zone. We created that table, so you can see that table where the densities are. 80 foot wide at the building line, 10,000 square foot lots, setbacks a little deeper. Our 7.5 is a 7,500 square foot lot minimum. Again, with this one here, we removed the bed and breakfast. And these are 7,500 square foot lot, 60 foot wide lots, and the setbacks are 20, 10, and 15. The density has changed. We added the off-street parking requirement. And now we're at RPH 6. This is a little more detailed. It was set up originally for a residential patio home. The lots were 6,000 square feet. We decided to take this lot and remove the RPH 6 and change it to a better type development, we believe. We're gonna go to a 4,000 square foot lot, a 50-foot wide lot. However, we're going to have the parking. We're looking to have 1.25 to 1.5 spaces per unit. Those areas will be maintained by the HOA. We're gonna have a minimum of 30-foot natural buffer around the entire project. What we'll do is we'll have a arborist or a landscape architect review it, and this will be done by the developer. And what they'll do is they'll look at this development and figure out what can be left there and what needs to be added to it. So it only has to be 30 foot wide. If it's wider, you can add it to the open space, or you can use the additional space for green space. If you put walking trails through there, if a perimeter walking trail would work, you could do something like that. But one of the things we want to do is we want to use evergreens wherever possible. We believe the evergreen is going to give us the best buffer. It gives us a sound buffer, it gives us a visual buffer. So we feel that's the best way to go. So again, I'm not an arborist, I'm not a landscape architect, so we're relying on them to do the best. We will review it, and if we don't feel it works, then we may have them get another landscape architect. But we feel it's important that we have the evergreens in there. And it says right here, we want an opaque buffer as soon as possible, which means that the trees shall be 6 foot tall in 3 years. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, but most of these trees can go pretty fast. The other thing is you gotta make sure you don't put in big trees in the wrong time and they'll die on you. So we wanna have the trees to be growing with the community. Traffic calming devices. A lot of people complain about speeding in their neighborhoods. So we looked at doing this, we looked at saying, hey, what kind of traffic calming can we do? We're starting to review it in a lot of different places in the city already, and anywhere we think we can get it done, we're gonna try. It's not an inexpensive proposition, but we're going to start looking at spaces as we go and trying to use prototypes that maybe we can develop into the traffic calming. The green space is different than open space in that you can use it. What we hope happens is that the green space becomes an area that runs through the neighborhood and can be utilized through the neighborhood, sort of like a corridor. We're hoping that that same corridor can be used for the traffic calming and maybe even used for the parking areas. What that does, it creates an area of congestion in an area which slows traffic down, able to park, but still has a green area that kids can play on. And again, you may want to, the owners may want to do dog parks or other kind of parks like that, and that's their prerogative. Open space, we want to provide it throughout. We're looking at a minimum of 30% open space right now. And I'm looking at this, but the open space can include the exterior buffer, green space, and wetlands can be included. So that number, if you have wetlands, it'll probably jump up a little bit, but I think by the time you're done, you're probably minimum 30% green space should be open space should be available. Sorry. So that's the RPH 6. which I believe is the biggest difference here. Everything else is gonna basically stay the same. We are looking to, with the exception of reduction of the densities. As we keep on going down the line, you see residential GR1. GR1 right now used to be considered, and still is considered, the mobile home area. It's the area behind City Hall, most of it is. There's some area, there's a couple other areas, but that's where majority is. Like I said, it's felt that there's a great area for development. You can always have single family, but what's happening now is you're seeing a lot of people going to duplexes simply because the cost is more effective. The houses are more affordable per unit. So we're trying to help that out a little bit in that area. We were hindering before with people trying to develop those areas, and you see what we get. So we're trying to push that a little bit stronger in development in those areas there. Again, it also includes quadplexes. Now, the land still has to be large enough to hold these. Parking still has to be there. Still has to be some open space. So we're looking at trying to make more green. Again, at tiny homes, we're trying to figure out what to do with tiny homes. We moved the minimum park area for manufactured homes from 2 acres to 5 acres. The maximum numbers shall not exceed 5 instead of 7. We added the 24 feet of the roadways. They should be considered driveways. They are not dedicated to public for the mobile homes. Again, we added more parking in the mobile home parks for visitors and overflow parking. We moved the bed and breakfast out of that, created our own separate ordinance. GR1, we have 6,000 square foot for a regular house and 8,000 for a duplex. And that's about what we're seeing right now in that neighborhood for a single family. So we added 2,000 square feet for that, for duplexes. I put tiny homes in there, I should probably take that out. But GR2 is currently our apartment zone. Multifamily residential is also allowed there. We are going to remove apartments from that zone. It's just felt it's too residential and should not have those apartments there. That will take effect when the ordinance is ratified. Right now, if someone wants to come in, GR2, they can do it. Everything right now is still, can be done to our regulations, current regulations. Multifamily development would be considered townhomes, quadplexes, but not apartments. We have areas to make that happen, and each one's in here. The distance between building is maxed out at 20 foot unless the building code unless you can change by the building code. The building code does allow you to have houses closer together. Of course, you have single unit shared walls, but you're also gonna have houses close together if you meet fire codes. And that will be reviewed by our building department. We show the GR2 has the additional parking, off-street parking in here for overflow. The flexible review district was not in the current ordinance. We placed it in here. It's a separate ordinance, it's just referenced in here. Now we come to the new zone, which is the APT zone, which is apartments. And this is strictly apartments. This is the old GR2 we took, and we just made them just strictly apartments, no conditional uses. It is set up only for apartments. And right now, we're looking at 10 units per acre at the max, and it's gonna go down to, I believe, 4 for 100 acres or more. We did get some feedback from apartment builders, and they were the opinion that we're being too strict. Because what happens is the units get built real close together. And when they get built real close together, you're not using a lot of land. So you'll have a lot more open space. And they were worried about not being able to use that extra land. So they're paying for a lot of money for land they're not gonna use. That was the feedback we got from them. Neighbor commercial. Neighbor commercial is a transitional zone. Same with office institutional. We try to set that up as a general commercial, then you slide into residentials, and you try to just make the uses higher uses as you get into commercial, and then you get lesser uses as you go away from commercial. So neighborhood commercial is a transitional zone from the core commercial, from the general commercial into the residential areas. We took out any uses that were permitted in the GR2. We will let residential units in there as long as they're incorporated with a first floor commercial. It's the old mom and pop type thing. You have the shop downstairs and you have a apartment or your own dwelling unit upstairs. We're trying to bring that into the neighborhood commercial. You don't want to have I don't want to have just one person saying, hey, all I can use this is from 8 to 5. I'd rather have people being able to use that area long into the day, which means they can live there. Same with office institutional. If you have an office, it'd be nice to have the ability to live above your office. Both lots are 10,000 square foot in size, and the residential density on both of these will be 3, neighborhood commercial and office institutional. The basic difference between neighborhood commercial and office institutional is that in neighborhood commercial, you can have retail. Office institutional is just that, it's office and institutional. And here's the office that we just spoke about. We have core commercial is next. Let's see, wait a second, make sure. Excuse me, GCD, general commercial is next. We took out all residential units in the general commercial. It used to have the ability to put in a single-family residence, and we're gonna take that out. It means no apartments, no condos. I believe that general commercial should just be that, general commercial, where you have the ability to open your shop. It's the big box stores. It's basically 123 is all general commercial except for certain areas. Yes, okay. Most of us are left by itself. The biggest problems I saw were the densities, general commercial, which is well, no, you just had that. Core commercial. I'm sorry, general commercial. Come on. General commercial is basically you can almost do anything you want to do there. You have a high density of impervious area. You can develop 92% of it. You still have to maintain stormwater and still have to have buffers if they go next to residential areas. Core commercial is the downtown area. We try to give that the ability to do almost anything you want to do there. But what we're trying to determine, if someone builds a new building, have the residents above, they can have a parking spot for it. Right now, it's all shared, and if you look at the downtown area, parking is becoming very difficult, and that's another area we're looking into, trying to figure out how to get more parking, but that's another story. So, like I said, that's the downtown area, and it's basically limitless the way they decided it. I didn't change that. Again, if we propose a residential unit, we'd like to have some off-street parking for that. It's gonna be very difficult to do, especially in the downtown area. We have not touched the industrial area. Industrial, I believe we need more. Again, it's industrial manufacturing, wood yards, contractors' yards, just trying to get someplace where people can use it and use it to have businesses that we don't want in general commercial or core commercial or neighborhood commercial. The more industrial type uses, as we said. Medical, we did, let me see. We decided not to allow any houses or residentials in medical. Again, if we're gonna have a medical area, let's set it up. Now, if the doctor's office wants to go into a neighborhood commercial, they can go to a neighborhood commercial, they can have the office above. Medical is basically where the hospital and the surrounding area for medical. The PUD, which is a planned unit development district, it's similar to the FRD. The FRD is basically set up for residential only. So if you want to have a mixed use, you want to have some not apartments, well, you can have apartments if you want to have some condos, if you want to have some, just a multitude of residentials together. That's one thing we did. Now, PUD is a combination of commercial and residential. The biggest example of a PUD around here is probably Patrick Square in Clemson, where you have the commercial in front, then you transition to I don't believe they have apartments, but they have assisted living. They were looking at assisted living. They were looking at a lot of different uses as they were going down. But again, that piece of property was 175 acres, so they had a lot of ability to do a lot of things on that piece of property. So I just left it the way it was. And we don't see too much of that anymore. The best example around here for a PUD is Smithfield's. That is still considered a PUD. As you can see, it had houses, it had the corner commercial. It was gonna do some, across the street, they had some condos. So that's a PUD at a lighter scale. Again, let's see. One of the things we did take the parking areas in front of houses and try to make those more livable. The max we allowing is 10%, which is, I consider substantial. We're seeing people coming in with 20%, and it just doesn't work well. They call immediately and say, we have a problem, right? They bought the house and they say, we have a problem, and there's really nothing we can do because the developer didn't have, the builder of the home, or the developer didn't have this regulation to keep them a little more honest, let's say. We're also doing is areas that are steep, we want them to be developed if possible, especially with infill areas. Because what happens there is that you have these lands that are empty that someone owns and they can't develop it and they're just paying taxes on it. So we are working with them to get some variances to get closer to the front of the roadway, get closer to the roadway. That way the house isn't going to be a huge foundation on the back of it. We have an overlay district, architectural overlay district. Again, this is gonna be something that the city fathers have to figure out, fathers and mothers, or just, they have to figure out if they wanna keep this, how they wanna establish it, if they wanna maintain it. Most of this is set up for the downtown area, and I haven't seen it used yet, but sooner or later, we're hoping that someone develops something downtown. Most of it, like I said, I left the way it was. The biggest issue that we saw was, again, here's the bed and breakfast removal, was density and off-street parking for residences. Multifamily, we're making a change to 2.25 instead of 1.5. It's a fine line. You want to have parking for everybody, but at the same time, you don't want to have these huge asphalt areas. So we have to be real careful on how we do that. Most of it didn't touch any of this. This all seems to work well. Here's the driveways. Just trying to get that to work well. the parking area where they, what we want more than anything else is the area in front of the driveway, in front of the garage, is to have it about 5%. What that does, your door will close at 5%. The door won't swing open all the time, which if some of you understand steep slopes, the door will always close on you. Again, parking dimensions, it's a lot of details for designers to look at. This is all online still. One of the things we're looking at is lighting particularly. We're seeing we got a lot of people having issues with lighting. So one of the things we're doing is saying, hey, it's already in the book, but we want to make sure people understand it better. So we're already sending out letters and saying, hey, your lights are shining on other people's properties, we got to stop that. And when we hear from something, that's what we do. That's a curb stop. It's a sign regulations, we really didn't touch those at all. One of the things we saw on signs is that you want to be able to, the business wants to be able to have a sign. And in some areas, that the right-of-way is greater than the surrounding right-of-way, that there's like a little jog out. If that jog out goes more than 20 feet, we're gonna give that commercial owner a little leeway. Right now, it has to be 10 foot behind the right-of-way, so we're gonna give them a little leeway to get closer. So we're looking at maybe, doing exception may be requested, so they can request to go closer. And 5 feet is probably okay. You're still well off the roadway. And you still have the slight visibility that won't obscure review. Added the APT for some signs. We are looking to, right now we pick up a lot of signs. Signs are illegal to put in the right of way, but that doesn't dissuade anybody by picking them up. They still put them in the right of way. We go through at least once a week to pick up signs, and typically you see 30 to 40 signs in the right of way. And we do give the people the ability to come pick it up. I'm looking to put a little bite into it by charging them. I think that will be taken out by the city council, but I want to put a little bite in there to make people aware that it is an eyesore. Again, our signs people are getting better with their signs. Still not great, but we're getting better. I don't think we want to be like a Hilton Head where you can't see the signs. Many people complain about when you have just a monument sign that they can't find out where they're going. Then we have lights, the way the lighting can be. We haven't changed any of that. This was all done earlier. Again, with a pickup and a fine, but like I said, that will probably be struck. Okay, we're getting to buffers now. Now, buffer yard regulations. This is where I want to change it. Actually, I'm making it a little more lenient. Right now, and not much, but more lenient, simply because what I'm seeing is a lot of, and this is due to maintenance, but a lot of overgrowth, and the trees just kill underneath, whatever's underneath them, it kills them, because it wasn't done properly. That's why I want to get a landscape architect in there, not someone who can just design and throw it in there. Especially if it's a big site, I want to make sure that there's enough parking and, enough landscaping in there to create an opaque buffer, as much as possible. Now, this is something a lot of people don't realize, but we also have regulations to do in the parking area, not just the exterior. We're supposed to have 5% of the parking area with landscaping. And that's what we're trying to, we're pushing that issue now with people coming in. A lot of it's been done, and there's really nothing we can do. What we do is when they do change, or do make an addition, we try to make sure that they can do some extra parking. We are trying to work with some of the bigger companies like Lowe's and specifically Lowe's, but across the street from Lowe's. They've been there such a long time, no one really mandated that they have parking, trees. So what we're trying to do is try to have like a 6-foot tree scape along the front of, especially down 123, 93, just to have some sort of vegetation in front of these buildings. Commercial owners don't like it because they consider it hiding their building, hiding their signs. But we're gonna work with them to try to get more trees on this. Again, this is an aside on 123 and 93, in Highway 8. Anywhere we see older type developments that were done, like I said, years and years ago, trying to get that, to try to bring them up to more current standards. Everyone loves a tree. And go more evergreen trees. One of the problems you have there is that you have to make sure you have site visibility coming out of your property. And again, if someone wants to come in with an alternative landscaping plan, they're more than welcome to. That will go in front of the planning commission, which hasn't been done in the past. We're trying to make sure the planning commission is more involved with some of these reviews. This is compliance. We're gonna make actually people have bonds, so they have to do plantings. A lot of these times people open up and say, I'll do the plantings later on, and they're working to get a closeout. And you want the businessman to be successful. You don't wanna hurt him to stop his opening, but at the same time, we have to make sure we can mandate that they do the landscaping by applying a bond to that. And this is the site plan approval process, how it is defined. Perimeter buffer lines. Every time you have a use, and I'll point out one use to here. You have a commercial use that has a floor area ratio of less than 0.35, very small piece of commercial property. They have to have a buffer from a single-family residence on a local street at 4. And I'll show you that in a little while. But on the street, when you're on the street, you only have to have a buffer of 1. So right now, if I have something I'm building right here, and there's a local street on this side, and 123 is on this side, they only need a buffer zone of 1 or 2. And what I'm trying to do there is try to get rid of that, and I put it right down here. Trying to do there is to say, if a commercial use is located on a local street across from a single-family use, the developer shall use the same buffer as the proposed land use buffers above. Right now, we weren't doing that, so I'm trying to make sure we do that. At the same time, like I said before, I want less buffer in there, less density. I want these trees to live and thrive. And when you're too dense with these, that has a tendency to just overwhelm everything. So we're looking into this, and I got a landscape architect I'll be talking to about making sure those numbers look right. Same all buffers. As the deeper you go, the less restricted use to the more restricted use, so residential, from commercial to residential, that buffer yard gets more and more trees. Per 100 feet, like in buffer yard 3, you get 3 canopy trees, 6 understory trees, 10 evergreen conifers, and 10 shrubs. Well, that gives you, and that's 100 feet, and that's 15 foot wide. The more wide you make that buffer, it reduces, as you can see, it goes to 75, 50, and 25. Now, when you see the bottom line right here, so you're looking at a 3, it says a fence is required. That F3 is a fence. B3 is a berm. B1 is a berm. Just different heights of berms. That's down further too. And then I was going to take out 6. We don't see too much of 6. 6 is between industrial and residential. But then again, I started realizing I want to push residential, so I left it real dense. Again, there are minimum widths on all these, and this one here, the minimum width is 30 foot. And it can go to 90 foot, but typically you're gonna see the narrower widths with more dense units. And then, if they do require a structure, it's gonna be a fence. I took out the 3 and 4 foot high fence. I left a 6 foot high masonry wall and made that, and took out the 8 foot high. It just seems overkill. What we want them to do is we want to put them on a berm too. So if you have a berm that's 3 foot high with a 6 foot high fence, that gives you a 9 foot, basically opaque area. And then you're supposed to be screening dumpster pads, and we gotta keep on, like you said, the biggest issue is enforcement, making sure people do what they're supposed to do. And we're trying to get better at that. I think that covers most of what we're looking at. Again, Architectural Review Board, we have to see what City Council wants to do with that. Once you do one, you have to have people willing to serve. A lot of people aren't willing to serve on some boards. They feel it's just time consuming, and they feel some people just don't get, not a lot of people get thrilled about doing it. And definitions, so this is basically just, excuse me, definitions where you can look through that if you want. That bases to the end of it, basically. So right now, a lot, I gave you a lot. I'm hoping some of you all reviewed it, and I'd like input. Just come on up. We'll give you 3 minutes. Give us as much input as you can, and then we'll figure out from there. I'll turn that one on.
Hi, my name is Edgar Alvarado. I live at 107 Garden Court. That's in Zone 3. And I want to talk about the buffer yard, because behind my yard, there's probably 20, 30 feet. It's kind of like a little wedge, because I'm more concerned because of the new housing that's being built, that where Highway 135 turns into Highway 8 in front of the elementary school and all that. I'm suspecting DOT will be doing a roundabout for all of that housing that's gonna be put in there. I don't know what's being built. I don't.
This is at the intersection of
135 and it turns into 8. Yeah.
Right now, we asked that, well, again, there's gonna be some feedback.
Yeah.
We'll give a little time on that, okay? What we're hoping to happen there is we have areas that we wanna rectify.
We can't hear you, Mario.
I'm sorry. We have areas, better? We have areas we wanna remedy. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of money. But that's one of the major areas that we see is from 123 to Ingalls.
Mm-hmm.
There's always congestion there.
Mm-hmm.
So we approached our Rex Rice, our state senator. We approached our, all in one email. We approached him. Don't think we went to our congressman, but we approached the local legislation, even into Anderson County, because Anderson County sends a lot of people that way. You know, you may not realize, but a lot of people come over the line and they drive down Highway 8 into that area. So that area is, I'm hoping they look at it and be able to make that a 4-lane.
And that's why I'm concerned, because my backyard comes up to Highway 8 and all that traffic is a lot
Your
of noise.
backyard does,
Yeah,
okay,
and all that traffic causes noise.
right.
And with the buffer yard, you know, I mean, if you could plant some trees or something, who's gonna maintain it? Who's gonna cut it? Who's gonna take care of that?
What we'd like to do is have you planted and maintained it, but,
Thanks.
well, it's your land. You know, I'd love to say we can rectify all the problems, and it may be part of that issue, we plant it, but then we'd love to give it to you to maintain. Because,
So that will be annexed to me, given to me?
oh, you're annexed, you're not in the city?
I'm just asking who's taking care of that?
Well, we haven't got to that point yet, so I understand your concerns, it's sound. We haven't really looked into that, I'm gonna be honest with you, but as I start thinking, it'd be nice to put a buffer in there, a tree line
Tree
buffer.
line or something.
Yeah, definitely, I think.
I
the-
hate to have a wall.
Right, no, walls are so expensive and they have a lot of reverberation and
Yeah.
bounce off. We'll look into that. It's a good thing to know and to understand. There's not a lot of those places. Most of those places turn to commercial when they have a large, when you aren't on a major thoroughfare. They'll start turning slowly into general commercial or office institutional. So, not,
So once you guys are starting to think about that or doing that, when will be another meeting for that? Or
for that particular,
yeah,
yeah, we'll have a meeting for that, once DOT starts waking up, not starts coming into it. DOT takes care of the road, they get the money,
I know.
yeah. So we'll have to look at that, but at the same time, I'll get with, that's me still talking, with some of your council member, you're in 3?
Yeah, 3.
All right, who's the council? Pat. I'll talk to Pat about what we can do to help you out now.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right, what's your name again?
My name's Edgar Alvarado.
Spell the last name?
Alvarado.
Oh, Alvarado, okay.
Yeah, and Chad is also my neighbor. He's also concerned.
Same thing?
Yes, sir.
What's your last name, Chad?
Nelson,
Number, addresses?
I'm at 105 Garden Court.
107?
107.
Give me 1 second, I want to see something. I didn't bring my mouse isn't working, so give me a second. You can sit down if you want. No, thank you. I knew everybody here for a reason. Get us there. Oh, that's funny, yeah. So this is Pelza Highway. Okay, you're right next to Ingalls? Okay. Well, we'll take a look into that. All right.
Will let us know when you guys are going to have that.
Well, my number's on the website. Give me a call tomorrow. I didn't bring a car with me, I'm sorry. We'll do. There you go. Give that to him. Both of them. And we'll figure it out. Pat and I will get together and talk about it.
Yeah, because this is the existing subdivision.
Right.
Your buffering is for new
Right, well, yeah, but that's a different issue, right? Yeah, that's a different issue. Yeah. All right, anyone else? Uh-oh.
Daniel Lee, 820 Linhart Road. And Mario, you've done a lot of work. I usually come up here and fuss. I'm impressed. You really have obviously put the time and hours in. And I think none of us have really had a chance to really digest it all, but I think we're headed in the right direction. I think all of us would like to see a little more open space. Nationally, we went to one of the county meetings, and Trad Julian, who's one of the county planners, said that nationally, and I was surprised, it's 50%, which I thought was high. I couldn't find that online, but that's what he said. Yeah, and that's what he said. I mean, you can look at the minutes.
By the time you're done with open space, green space, wetlands, detention basin, and lots of different detention basin in there, you're probably looking close to 30%.
Okay,
And when we get, when we get our first subdivision that comes in like
Yeah.
that, we're gonna share that.
And
And so what we anticipate that this looks like.
and this all sounds good, and I don't think anybody's really complaining. Yeah, until it all shakes out. But I think one of the big issues is enforcement. And then, that we do have some enforcement. The city council is going to have to vote to have some more people, inspectors, and some better enforcement, because I think some things, as we know, these developments it's what's really upset people. It's fallen through the cracks. And then the other thing I think people are concerned about is that if we have a traffic problem, let's say, and there's a road problem, and then the issue will be like, well, DOT's going to fix this, but let's not pass these things till the things get fixed.
Just to let you know, and I don't know if I shared with you or not, and I'm not ready to share it yet, but I'll get
500,000. I think you and I did talk about it a little bit, yeah.
We look at the one we're building right now on, Crestview, you look at about $1.3 million.
That's pretty tough. And then the other thing I think we'd like to see is some way to preserve any trees or things that are already there. And you may have that in there, I haven't really plowed through it.
Thing to do, because most of the time the trees are in the middle of the ones that-
Well, yeah, and you make exceptions for that. And, if you look at Charleston County has an ordinance, and it hasn't stopped their development. They're still the biggest, fastest developing area. And it does look nice. And there are exceptions, of course, where you have to put a roadway, but you have to apply for it. And there's a penalty if you do it where you plant more trees. Yeah, yeah.
But the thing we have to look at is, and I hate to use this as an example because I'm not real crazy about the developer that said it. The bigger the tree, the closer it is to death.
Well, there's some truth to that, yeah.
It sounds glib. I grew up, you can tell I grew up around, I grew up in Boston. And, so I get on the subway in Boston, and every day we go straight, then we took a quick right, circle back around Riverview, and then come back around like that. So finally, I asked the driver, why we do that? Oh, so just don't go up there. Well, it died a year later. So you have to have some conversation what you do, and have to trees evaluated.
Yeah.
Again, cost money, but that's something.
And again, I think we like the bar, the architectural review. I mean, I think to tie all this in, to have some sort of look is really helpful for the look of a community.
That's what a lot of people like the FRD for.
Yeah,
The FRD is, where you come in and say, I'm gonna build this, and that, it's gonna look like this, it's gonna have this, it's gonna have everything basically there. It's a preliminary plan that you look at. Very time consuming. And it puts a big onus on the city planner. Because the city planner has to be able to read the minds of planning commission, the city council, neighbors, and say, here's what I think you can do. And then you basically negotiate with the developer, and the developer comes back and says, yeah, I can do that. Then you come back in.
like a plan development, yeah,
Everyone comes back and says, no, I want something totally different.
right. Well, I'd implore city council to, I mean, if we're gonna have this tax revenue coming in, then we need to use that to make these things enforced, to give you help to look at these things. So, thank you.
If you want, hey, look, good job.
Hi, Bill McKinney, 576 Heritage Road. Couple of questions. So I heard you say a lot about less dense development, or is that the where you're trying to move?
I'm trying to get less dense.
Less density,
Right
okay,
now, it's pretty high, pretty significant.
yeah. When you say that, though, it sounds like a lot of it is, you're taking into account the whole area of a development or whatever, and then saying, that's how the math is done. It's not like spacing between houses, for example.
No, you actually want the houses closer together, with a pattern like this.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But what happens, well, I mean, it's what we want, it depends on what the market is, all right? I can't, one guy came in and said, you can have acre lots. And, he was very blunt about it, said, you need to have acre lots. Now, that's great, if you have the money to do it. Because now you're spending, infrastructure costs start rising up. So ultimately, our goal is to have good developments at affordable pricing. Now, the more space you have, the more cost it is.
Yes, but a nicer town you live in.
Well, but if you wanna do that, you can, but you also have more open space.
Yeah,
Now, if you go to R10, you don't have open space. R10 is, Smithfield, well, not really Smithfield, but Smithfield, it's, Middle Creek, it's Huntington North, it's, I think, Huntington's South Lake.
yeah,
But, yeah, we like those big lots.
yeah.
If
My,
we can afford it.
right. My concern is that the less dense is actually more dense from a practical standpoint. People are right on top of one
Right,
another.
exactly.
You
It's more
know.
dense in a small area,
Yeah, and,
but they give you, but you still have open space. So it's definitely,
but it's not usable. I mean, so much of it is just,
well.
waterways or over flooding plains and stuff like that, right?
Now, we're different now, because we have green space that's usable, and we have open space that's usable. We want some of the open space to be usable also, but green space and, we want to have more, we want to have usable, space for sure. And that's why we're trying to put the numbers in there, trying to make sure that all works.
Is it a greater fire danger or higher insurance cost to have housing so close? And wouldn't that move to, you know,
Actually, it's more beneficial because the fire hydrants are closer. You don't have to, you're not, right now, you have to have fire hydrants at 500 feet from my house. Right now. And our firefighters are really good. Our fire ISO ratings are excellent. Our insurance rate, that brings our insurance ratings really down. That's one of the reasons why city council is so adamant about having a great fire department. Because it saves us, it saves citizens a lot of money in taxes. Not taxes, but insurance fees that we don't think about.
yeah. I had one other question if I can, okay. When you're talking about more parking space, are you referring to building the houses further from the road, or how are you gonna get that extra space?
I'd love to have that. But what I'm thinking about is having a distance between the house and a separate parking area, like 500 feet or, I haven't really established that number yet. So I have like a little parking area that could be off the road, but if you're back outside the roadway, so I'm not crazy about it. So you have like 5 or 6 spots near a green space, and then have another 5 or 6, maybe 1,000 feet away from that.
So if we just had like houses down the street like the chairs are, they would all just have small parking in front of them, and then like right here would be a parking lot to nothing?
The developers don't want that.
I know. This sounds crazy. I'm not crazy about it either, just,
I'm more than willing to talk about whatever else you need. But
Yeah.
You can give me a call and we can discuss it all day long.
okay.
Now, what do you do for a living?
What's that?
What do you do for a living?
I'm a financial advisor.
You reminded me of something. Carol Johnson, 103 Equestrian. One thing that he reminded me of was when we were at the planning commission meeting, they said something about putting the houses further away from the street. And the reason is because you have a pickup truck, you got a trailer, you don't want the hitches hanging out into the sidewalks.
Trying to dissuade people from walking the sidewalk. That's one of the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Pushing it back. I'll have a lot of pushback on that still. As developers, because they also, hate to say it, raises the cost of everything. The further back you go, more concrete, more pipe. It's just more grading, but it's a good idea. I'll look into that.
Even an additional 5 feet, I think would help.
I think we'll have a lot, yeah.
Yeah, because the trucks are longer
Well, we
today.
park on sidewalks now, and we don't want people parking on sidewalks. So-
Not on the sidewalk. I mean, you have your right of way, you have the sidewalk, and then have a,
Right, but see, I'm saying, if the driveway's not long enough.
that's right,
It's taking the lane.
that's right. So we want the houses set back further. And the other thing is, I heard you say something about bed and breakfast. Did you take those out of the O&I district, or do you still have a district for that?
There's some, they can do a random district,
Okay,
certain specification, yeah.
you just took out the specific,
I just took out because it was in every district, right, so let's just.
okay. Okay, and then the other thing I want to make sure you do account for is you have a story limitation and a height limitation for your apartments. I didn't see that in your chart.
There is, it's in here.
Just have a difference between stories and whatever easily wants as far as number of stories, and then also the height.
I think it's 50 foot.
Okay. Oh, 50 feet?
You do it right, it's legal 4th level, but right now,
That's
we're
right.
really pushing back on 4 levels with the fire department.
Oh, okay.
They allow it. That's pretty much. Yeah, that'll be fire department. Anybody?
My name's Chad Nelson. I live at 105 Garden Court. We talked earlier. I have a few questions. The first question is the plan or the development at the highway, 135 and 8. How is that zoned, please? And is there a plan for that development? FRD? Okay. Is that going to fall under the old guidelines or the proposed new ones?
Everything's being built right now.
Okay.
Hey, I'm trying to work with them, trying to sell them on some of the issues on this. They don't have to do it. They have to be good to their heart.
Okay. The next question I had was, you talked a lot about green spaces and open areas. I'd prefer to walk and ride my bicycle. Their sidewalks are very limited in the city. I didn't know if there was any plans or anything going forward with any of that.
Well, I'm looking, and I'm looking, trying to figure out, I got a lot of ideas, unfortunately. And like I said, the biggest thing is money. I'm looking at, trying to connect the Doodle Trail from Jersey Rock to.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was leading into.
Trying to connect it through easily, and maybe move it around easily.
Okay.
If you're interested, give me a buzz, we'll talk about that too. We are starting the Greenway.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
There you go, I'm sorry. We're starting to look at the Greenway Trail,
Mhm.
which is from basically Brushy Creek Road along the swamp that's out, marsh that's on there, I guess it's a swamp, into the recreation center. We should be starting that anytime.
Okay, that'd be,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
It'd be really, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of boardwalks. I think it's gonna end up beautiful. I think it's gonna end up, and then we're trying to connect that back to, West End Hall area, where they created that little spur to nowhere. Trying to connect that all back together. Trying to get from there to the Doodle Trail is gonna be a little more difficult, because there's a lot of different areas to cross. But yeah, we're out of our area right now, but yeah, I understand that.
Is there any plans for along the Doodle Trail, any type of mixed developments and or businesses or anything to be able to come into that area?
Not right
Or is
now. I mean,
just-
that's, there's two things we don't do. We don't ask for annexations, we don't ask anyone to annex in, and we don't try to develop. We're getting out of our core of being a governmental agency trying to develop into a piece of property. We'd love to talk to you. If you're interested in doing it, you gotta find the property, you gotta make sure it's on sewer. But it's, I rode the Doodle, and then I rode the Swamp Rabbit. The Swamp Rabbit is head and shoulders above the Doodle Trail right now with development along it. But again, then, it's development right along it. So trying to figure out the best way to do that is making sure people are happy and doing the right things. We want the right thing done. We don't want just someone developing just to develop. And I think that's where Dr. Lee came back and said, hey, let's see if we can do some visual, some aesthetics on it too. And that's a little more difficult, but, we're looking into make sure we can get that too.
All right, thank you very much.
You got it.
Oh.
Hold on.
You mentioned that sidewalk requirements are in LER.
Well, he's talking, but he's, I don't think he's talking about development, I'm talking about just around the city. Which, yeah, because if you're walking, we don't want you biking and walking the same one, but unfortunately, most of the main thoroughfares are DOT. We're trying to connect spots where we can.
Sure.
Again, they should be amenable to doing that. It's just a matter of trying to find the funding. I hate to keep using that, but everything, 10 years
Everything
ago,
goes back to
10 years ago, it was pretty inexpensive. In the last 5 years, it's just jumped extraordinarily. I mean, just unbelievable. Because I'm a civil engineer, and I used to do projects like that all the time. I've seen it skyrocket like 5, 6, maybe 10 times what it used to be. And it's scary.
All right, and one last thing I was at, is there any traffic studies being done with any of these new
Right.
developments? Or is that
Right.
information available to us?
The traffic amounts are on the DOT website.
On the DOT, okay.
Right, they're on the website. They don't not studies, they're just traffic counts, okay? You have to dive in deeper to get that done. Right now, DOT is looking at 123 and trying to maximize the signals on 123. Now, that being said, some people aren't gonna be happy on that. What they're gonna try to do is, I refer to as game day every day. So during the rush hours, they're gonna try to get those people off 123 as quick as they can into Greenville and to Clemson. What that does there, it gives the people coming into the connecting roads, it gives them a delay.
Sure.
And so it's like making 30,000 people happy or making 10 people happy. It's difficult because we all want to be happy.
That worked, thank you.
Again, anytime you want to talk, give me a call.
Will do, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
How you doing? Dale Schwartz, 122 Terry Acres. Got a couple of questions for you regarding the RPH 6, with going from 6,000 square foot down to 4,000 square foot. So I understand, more dense for the builders and whatnot, but all the green items on the list, were those new items that were never existed before, like the buffer yards, those didn't exist at all before?
Right.
Okay. So, I guess part of my concern is that if those are getting more dense and there was no other, I mean, there had to have been some type of boundary before, right? Not, it just wasn't, like you could go really anywhere, they could have 100% use of buildings.
Give you an idea, Cobblestone, you know what Cobblestone is, over on Couch Lane?
Yep.
Yeah, that is, I think it's R6 also. There's no buffers on that.
Okay.
What's Oak Creek? I want to say it's R6 also. I'm not positive. It could be R7.5. No buffers on that one.
Okay.
So typically, you only buffer from, you don't buffer from residential to residential. You buffer from commercial to residential. Sorry.
I gotcha. And then as far as the traffic calming devices, that it said that you don't recommend speed humps, but what other things exist besides that?
What I'm looking at right now is islands in the middle of the road. So as you drive,
Oh, to
exactly,
curve, yeah. I gotcha.
give you more like a chicane, you know. If people want to speed, they're going to speed, unfortunately. So we're going to be trying to do a couple of those. Again, it's expensive, but we're starting to move on some of them, so we'll see what happens there.
Sure. I mean, going from 4,000 or from 6,000 to 4,000 seems like kind of a
But
big
it's still,
step.
but it's still the same density. So you're not getting any more houses. That gives the developer an opportunity. He may not do it. That gives the developer an opportunity and the individual an opportunity to say, I don't want a big yard anymore. You're not old yet. He is. He doesn't want a big yard to maintain anymore. I'm getting to that point. You know, I enjoy it. I have fun doing it. But to a certain point, you know, you start looking at it and going, man, I got too many trees. I got too much grass to cut. I want to enjoy my weekends. So even places like Greenville County, I think maybe in City of Greenville, where they're doing that along Verde, I haven't seen it, but they say the lots is the same size as tennis courts. Everything's on the same tennis court. Is where you want to live? No. If you want to live, I mean, you can live there if you want to. You don't have to buy it. It's your choice. It's a capitalist society. You can buy what you want to buy. I'm hoping it helps bring cost of development down, and I'm hoping we see that coming into the city and saying, hey, we're going to bring the cost down. I'm also looking at other ways to try to keep affordable housing in here with new developments coming in saying, hey, can you allow 5% or whatever number, 7.5% for affordable housing, you know, first-time homeowners. We did that a little bit on the Doodle Trail. You have a 10-year commitment, and then you can't make you have to make a certain amount of money when you sell it. You can't go over that. You can't go, you know, we want to try to keep that housing affordable throughout. So a lot of people will love it to buy the house, but then they'll say, well, I can't sell it for market price after that. So you try to keep those affordable housing at the same area. I got a phone call the other day, and the lady said, I want to buy this affordable housing. And I said, sure, that's no problem. Here's what you got to do. You got a 10-year commitment to do that. And then then I can sell it for what I want to. I said, no, then you can't make as much money as you typically would. She goes, well, I don't want to do that. I want to make all the money. So, you know, you have that attitude. People come in and say, well, I want to make money on it, but we try to keep affordable housing, and you want to try to keep it affordable throughout. And that's one of the things the city tried to do, and hopefully it will work. But we may get with developers and see if they can do that for us also, to say, you're going to set aside X amount, intermingle to the subdivision, but that house will be deed restricted not to be able to sell it for, like, you can make like, they'll give you a certain number you can make on it, like 4% or something like that. Instead of making like, my son bought a house 2 years later, he sold it for $50,000 more, he made like 10 to 20% on it. It was good for him, but you can't afford that. Some people can't afford that. You want to try to keep it affordable. Sorry to get off on a tangent.
I see. Is there any worry about, sorry, it's time. Okay, well, I was gonna say, is there any worry about, you know, you keep saying first-time home buyers, but any lesser
Affordable.
income
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
is, of course there is,
Yeah.
yeah. You want everyone to buy a house, that's American dream. That has, I don't think that's changed yet. A lot of the, was it Gen Xers or whatever the new generation is, they want to live in apartments. They don't care. They work 6 months, go play, have fun for 6 months. That's not how I grew up. I'm not like that. My kids aren't like that, but some of their friends are like that. They want to live free. And so, but some people, I always thought American dream was that, but some people have different dreams.
Sure.
So we're gonna try. I mean, that's all we can do is try to help them out, to help out the first-time homeowners, to help out the lower-income people.
Got it. Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons why we opened up the area behind here to duplexes and triplexes. It's a little less expensive to own one of those.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing?
Hey.
Mario, I live off of Brown Drive, off of Sheriff Mill Road.
Sure.
And so the new ordinance that you're proposing for that particular development, is that gonna be apartments or patio homes or what?
It's
is
gonna
it
be single-family houses.
Okay, and so that will not change?
No, not from
So-
us.
Okay, so if the
Right.
developer comes to you and they don't like this new ordinance that you're proposing, and they ask you to put apartments or
Nope.
townhomes there, are you gonna allow
We,
that?
no, you can't. We can't.
Okay,
We don't want that to happen there. It's just not set up for that area. Now, saying that, if it goes to Pickens County, then I doubt they'll change, but Pickens County is a land use. They're asking for our 6.5, our 6, so that's what they're asking for, that's what we give them. If they come back in, it's the planning commission's decision if they want to change it to apartments. I would assume they would say no. I may be wrong, I'm sorry, I may be misspoken, but I would assume they'd say no to apartments.
Okay, well, the reason I'm asking is because there were some emails that were sent out to where you guys in the beginning of this proposal were talking about having townhomes and single-family homes and possible commercial space on this property.
They were talking about commercial space and they dropped that. Now, again, the zoning request is for RPH.
Correct.
That's-
But that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
if
they
it has
originally
shifted
thought about
in-
that, and they said you have to have a totally different thing to ask for.
Okay.
They would ask for a PUD or FRD, but when they do commercial, then you have to ask for a PUD,
Okay.
right?
Right,
And when a
I
PUD is different, that's when they come back and say, here's what I want to do. And you have to, then they mandate to themselves what they have to do.
Okay,
So they can't verify, it can't change from that.
so according to your new ordinance, it'll be 3 houses per acre?
Correct.
Okay, and you're only mandatory 30% green space on?
We haven't got the final number on that, but I believe 30%.
Okay.
We may have them do a quick design for us and see what it actually works out to be. I'm anticipating it's gonna be more.
And that includes buffers?
Correct.
Okay, so there's a watershed on this. I don't see anything in your proposals whatsoever for
The wa-
setbacks on watershed, streams, or creeks.
The watershed protects itself with a floodplain elevation.
I know, but
Yeah.
you guys are not putting any ordinances in that to do
Not for
anything?
I think they have their own. I'd have to look into it.
And the reason I'm asking is the county is proposing their own ordinance on top of what the federal ordinance of FEMA and everything
Okay.
are. So that's why I'm asking, are you not
We
doing
have
that?
we have a buffer from the wetlands, not from floodplain, from
And what's
wetlands.
the setback on that?
I want to say it's 25 feet right now.
Okay, and so you don't want to expand that any?
I haven't thought about it. I'll think
Okay,
about it.
I really think
Oh, I
that.
appreciate it, yeah.
Okay. The other, just a couple of more quick questions, I'm sorry. Okay. Can a civil engineer or building official arbitrarily make changes to the 30% open space, 10% green space, whatever you got? Are you going to allow that to happen? So,
You can't. Once the ordinance is done, they
so
may
you're
ask.
not gonna override any of your
If they
ordinances?
ask for a variance, we cannot give a variance ourselves. A civil engineer, planner, building inspector, building official.
Okay,
Now, they can ask for one, okay?
right,
But they have to ask for a variance and have to go in front of the zoning board of appeals,
okay.
okay? Now, that's an open public meeting.
But you're not arbitrarily
We
gonna
can,
override
we
it?
cannot do that.
Okay.
We can give some variances, small,
Yeah,
to setbacks and stuff like that, where we feel that's, it's not a health issue or a safety issue. But when it comes to something like that, we're not, I'm not gonna do it. I mean, I consider myself having a different level than most people.
Okay, and this is my last question, I promise. So on the revising of everything, did you go through a planning development attorney or any kind of,
Not yet, we're gonna,
American Institute of Certified Planners or any of that? Did you do?
not yet.
So it's.
We're
so
gonna have,
is
we're
it
gonna have it,
technically
we're gonna have it
not-
reviewed.
Okay, so it's technically not a legal document until those things go,
Correct.
until you
It's,
present it
it's
to
not,
the.
well, right, exactly.
Okay.
It's going to go through our attorneys for a review. We have about $5,000 set up for that, and we can send it to an AICP also.
Okay, and what about the Master of Community and Regional Planner? Do you go through that at all?
No.
Okay. Oh, Dawn Crooks, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mario.
You got it.
Hi, Mario.
Hey, sir.
I'm Rick Tate, live at 320 Woodfield Drive. I'm over in that area with 135 and Highway 8 also. I'm Pat's district. We're all pretty close to being neighbors. Just a couple of thoughts, couple of questions, like broad strokes kind of thing. When you sat down to do this, was there an intention to accommodate coming growth or slow growth or to make growth easier, or was there any kind of goal like that in mind when you started?
The intent was to not slow growth, but to make growth better,
To manage,
to manage growth, yes.
but not slow it.
I was not tasked to do either. I was tasked to review what we have
Right?
and make it better, try to ameliorate what we're having right now.
So I don't know how far out you project these things, it's outside of my wheelhouse a little bit, but projected growth the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, what kind of percentage are we looking at?
It was funny, when we talk about it, since 1990 to last year, we were growing at 2% a year.
Oh, yeah, but until 1990, but the last 3 years,
1990 to 2020,
two,
to 2020.
but the last 4 years have
Right,
seen
we've seen a
like
lot-
24% growth or something.
We've seen a tremendous amount of growth, correct?
Right.
I've been here since August. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, my family's been here over 200 years, watched it all.
Then we can blame you for that, right? 'Cause-
Yeah, blame me.
But, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it better. Can we stop growth? The only way we can stop growth is the people that own the land to stop selling their land.
Oh, I understand that
So-
part of it. I'm just
so-
trying to get a grip on
Right.
what, my next question would be, how would your new plan or your new proposals affect growth? The percentage of growth, would it stay static? Would it slow? Would it increase? How do you project your proposal in affecting growth?
There are so many things that affect growth,
True.
and you can't just say, hey, it's gonna stop growth. I don't think it's gonna stop growth at all. I think it's just gonna spread growth out more. So that's one of the questions you have, is you have, okay, I wanna do this. The reason why I'm doing it is to make it better, but I'm not saying it's gonna stop it. I can't stop it.
I never said anything
No,
about
what
stopping.
I'm saying is that, it's a conundrum. Because when you have a piece of property, let's use Brown Road, it's 100 acres, okay? I'm gonna put 3 units per acre in there, so I'm gonna get 300 units in there, okay? So someone else comes and says, well, it's another piece of property down the street, I'm gonna go build there. Should I have done 400 lots on Brown Drive to stop them from going further out? So they want to come to this area. I've only been here 30-something years. So they want to come to this area. So how do you stop them from coming? And how do you slow it down? It's based upon what the city wants to do. So
I would suggest you stop annexing, and I don't think you can stop growth
Wait,
either, but you can redirect it.
But then you grow in the county.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to, I get, the argument about the benefit of having everything bunched up on top of each other. It makes fighting a fire, there's a convenience to the city and support services, garbage pickup, fire department, the police department, whoever. I get having people close together make that easier to deal with.
But how do you stop annexing if the people want to annex? Just say no, do you know what's going to happen then? If you had 100 acres, you said, I want to annex it in, and we said no to you, what would you do? Realistically, don't be saying, oh, I
Well,
just leave.
I've got a real estate license.
Yeah. So what would you do?
I would sell it to somebody else. I would deal in the county. But the way it's working right now, there's a reason people want to build in the city limits of Easley because,
No, the only reason why they want to build in the city of Islay is for sewer. So you have to request an annexation. So that request for annexation, you have to ask for sewer,
yes,
okay?
yes.
And if we deny,
Then combined utilities, the board votes, and they can either give it to them or not.
well, if they don't, then there's another lawsuit, but that's beside the point. So these people that have the land, they want to develop the land. They want to sell the land, and they want someone to develop it. Do I want that to happen? I've never said I want to develop not development.
Which brings up another interesting question when you say sewage. How close are we to capacity and when we're gonna have to start
We're
building?
still a pretty good distance away.
Pretty good.
We're still. I
According to
think-
the figures I saw, the middle plant's at 86%, and you're supposed to start construction to increase capacity at
You'd have to
85.
ask combined utilities, but what they're in the process of doing is transferring some stuff around, so I'm not sure how that works. You'd have to talk to them about that. The way I understand it is they have total capacity of, I believe, 5 million, and they're at 3 million. That's the way I understand it. You have to ask them now.
Well, I saw a letter from them to city council stating that the middle plant is at 86%.
Well, they are putting new headworks there.
Pardon?
They are starting to upgrade that. They've got a $10 million loan to start upgrading that.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
it's like I said, if it was easy, you know, it's such a tricky question on how can you slow growth down. You know, we all want good things. We all want good restaurants. We all want good stores. And then we say, let's stop it, which we could do. We could say, stop it.
I'll say this and I'll go sit down. There's a lot of back and forth on this issue, and, you know, you talk to people and they say, well, the schools can handle the growth, the roads can handle the growth, whatever. And that's coming from government agencies. But we, the people, when you talk to the people who live here, the people that are not coming here, the people that live here, the people that vote, what they want is it slowed down. That's who needs to be listened to. I mean, the cornerstone of our civilization in the United States is self-governance.
Right.
And it is a complicated issue, but we're obligated, and elected officials are obligated to answer to the people that pay the bills and, you know, the light bill here and whatever it is. It's our city. It belongs to us.
Sure.
So elected officials are obligated to listen to us and to accommodate us. We don't want it to go to the point to where the school is brimming over and absolutely at capacity. We don't want it to the point to where the roads are absolutely in gridlock before we do anything. The time is to get ahead of the curve. It's bad enough as it is, and people want something done about it. That's just a simple truth. And I was just trying to get a fix on where you see the growth going, how fast it's going, and when we're going to reach those points. That was the purpose of my
Like I
questions.
said, with 7% interest rates, who knows? They're
That's
still
true.
selling them, but again, with people selling land, that's their prerogative. They want to sell it, they want it, someone buying it wants to develop it. Unfortunately, that's the way our society is. Well, fortunately, it depends which way I want to look at it. Someone wants to make money on it. I mean, you make money on it, you're a realtor. Or you did make money on it.
Yeah.
So-
No longer.
Well, I mean, you did though, right?
I never sold a house. I got in at the wrong time.
Okay.
I'm more of a truck driver.
Okay. So it's like I said, it's a good conversation to have. I appreciate the conversation, and I'll spend some time on it, there's no doubt.
Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. That's not gonna happen.
I'm Harold Kendall, I'm at 156 Brown Drive. I'm referring to the developments you're proposing out there at Brown and Sheriff Mill. I understand growth's gonna happen, but don't we need to be smart about it? I mean, let's do it right, not regret it. I mean, he just mentioned the impact that it has on everything, and it's terrible. I mean, exactly, we're the people that vote for you. Maybe I don't, because I'm in the county. For now, let's hope it stays that way.
Sir, we do not ask anybody to come into the city. We got to dispel that. We have never asked anyone to come to the city. The people that own the property ask to come into the city. They ask for annexation. We look at it and we say, is it appropriate or not appropriate? Right now, the planning commission says it's not appropriate. The first reading of city council says it is appropriate. So we do not come after you. We do not want your land. If you want to come in, we'll have to talk to you about it.
Okay, very good. Everywhere you drive in Easley, it seems like there's another development or apartment complex going up. I mean, just as he mentioned, isn't it time we control the growth? I'm not saying stop it, but control it. That's what your job is, to control what's happening out there. Have you personally looked and walked around the property of Sheriff Mellon Brown Drive?
No,
But yet you've made plans for it.
I
How
don't
is
make
it-
any plans for it.
Well, I heard that you'd like redone stuff for it that's concerning that area. I mean, there is agriculture around there and also homes. I mean, I was just looking at was it the RP10 where it's,
R10?
or R10, yeah.
R10, that's 10,000 square foot homes.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I don't know how all those.
That's fine, that's
what all
fine,
those
yeah,
mean and everything, but I'm just saying, it'd be nice, like, when you're proposing stuff for this, and especially since the development is such a big one, that you knew the area you were talking about, especially when it's concerning streets. I mean, there's a lot of,
Oh, I can look at a piece of property and tell about it. I've been a civil engineer and I've looked at enough property to know what it is. And it's a nice piece of property. It's not well suited for development, but people are buying property and they're looking to develop it.
I agree with you, it's not well suited. I've walked the property. You mentioned there's gonna be like a 45-foot space from the streets to the homes. Is that to the back of the house? Did I understand that
There's
properly?
gonna be a buffer.
A buffer? Right,
That's on the outside edge.
okay,
So it's gonna be all around the whole thing.
okay. Now, is that from the person's back property line or from the house itself?
From the person's property line to the property line.
Okay,
That's what is mandated, 30 foot. So around every piece of property, it'd be 30 foot that will be owned by the homeowners association.
no, I'm talking from like the street to the homes distance.
We're still working that out. We were talking about, that's what, I think she was asking about the depth of
Right.
the frontage. There's a couple things we have to look at, and you want to have a big sometimes you want to have a big setback, sometimes you don't. The farther away from the road you are, the faster people go, the closer you are, it's like a tunnel effect, that people actually slow down. So you gotta look at everything on that, and we're trying to figure that out
Right, I mean,
exactly.
because there's a lot of us that are agriculture over there, and a larger buffer would be nice for us, more trees, 100 foot would be a whole lot nicer than 45. 45 feet's not much. I have a development in my backyard, the one off of Terry Acres there.
Do they have-
45 feet's nothing. I mean, you can look through it, it's like, right next door. It's not a buffer. It really doesn't seem like they're doing much there. That's my time already?
Give a couple, one more, go ahead.
Okay. Has anybody thought about the silt runoff and all that? I mean, I'll
Oh,
be real quick with my stuff.
Yeah, anytime we developed, engineers are involved, the developers involved, they have to keep their sediment, their stormwater to a minimum. There's certain regulations they have to follow, DHEC regulations that they have to follow. That's the onus is on the engineers. That's what they have to do. They have to figure out how to stop that, how to keep silt from going in the creeks. And if they don't, then there's ramifications to that.
Because I have pictures and videos of all the silt running through those creeks, the silt buildup on that property just coming from Terry Acres, not to mention what that's gonna do. I spoke Friday with the DNR guy that walked the property, I was back in there with him, and he said the silt buildup in that lake already is bad, so it's just
Well, we'll
something
have-
we need to think about.
That's a Pickens County site. Terry Acres, you may want to call them up and talk to them too.
Well, I plan on that, I'm
Right.
talking to DHEC also, but I'm just saying.
Definitely,
We
yeah.
have to think about what
It's-
this development's gonna do
Always.
also.
Always. Thank you. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. My name's Kelsey Crooks. I live on Brown Drive. Couple questions. So when will all this take effect? What you're proposing tonight?
It'll take effect, here's what goes next. Next, if the draft is written, okay? Right now, we have a little bit of input from people. I don't think there's anything major on it. In a month, it will go to planning commission.
Okay. So
Planning
you'll
commission-
take everything from tonight, reevaluate that,
Right,
see what
yeah.
changes need to be made?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is they'll look at it, and then they'll have a meeting sometime next month, June, and then they'll approve it or disapprove it. And if it disapprove, I don't know what to do. They've been in all these meetings, they understand what's going on, I haven't heard any real big negative feedback on it. Then what we'll do is, that then it goes in front of city council, and city council will look at it. And I'm hoping, they've been in all these meetings too, and I'm hoping they'll say, this is good, we like it. And then that will be July,
Okay,
and then August, and August will be the second reading.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're
Gotcha.
looking at August right now.
Okay. Will there be a second reading for
That's-
anything that you change? As
It'll
far
be,
as
the
the
draft
similar
will
to
be online if
tonight?
you want, I'll keep the draft online.
Okay, so changes will be
Right,
updated
right,
on
if we
there?
make any changes, right.
Okay.
What I'll do now is, right now, I'll make everything that we've talked about is in black, make it all black again, and then put the current, any other changes will be in red.
Okay,
That seems to work out really well.
okay. And the difference between the 4,000 and 6,000, what is the square footage difference between those?
2,000 square feet.
Is 2,000,
Right.
well, okay, so as far as acreage?
It's square feet.
Okay.
Acreage divided by 43,560, I'm not sure what that is.
Okay,
Yeah, it's probably like, let's see, 0.2, 0.2. What's
okay,
it?
so not a
You're the math
lot.
guy.
Okay.
What is 2,000 divided by 43,560? Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Everybody get out their calculators.
0.04, about 5%.
Okay, okay. Also, 30% green space, 30% open space, is that something you'll reconsider, go up on?
We'll look at it.
The county's way higher than that.
They're
So
at
as far
50%.
as- Yeah, correct. So as far as, not to circle down, beat a dead
We'll
horse,
have-
annexing land,
I'll get with them and see what they're looking at,
okay,
because I gotta see what they're considering.
right. If you guys are gonna take land
if
from the
they-
county, then we want to keep it in that similar,
Yeah, we've had that discussion in the past with the county
okay,
about trying to get something similar. They have a lot of different things they have to look at. We don't have any they have septic issues they have to work. They don't have a lot of sewer. Most of their sewer is on the 123 corridor.
Well, I mean, we have sewer in Habersham.
yeah.
We're on a sewer line.
Yeah, that was
So
before,
that doesn't.
but that was from combined utilities because you were outside the city. And since you were outside the city, we couldn't annex you in. So they were able to get it there, and the one behind on Terry Acres. So, but there's limited sewer in Pickens above City of Easley. Clemson has like 5 million gallons. Liberty has some, but they're having problems, excuse me. Pickens has some, but not substantial. So most of the growth is happening. People want to be on the 123 corridor.
I'm on the Pickens County Public Service Commission.
Let's actually
Okay.
get up by other view class.
What?
We have six.
I've got one more.
Right.
Six wastewater treatment plants in Pickens County.
But what's the capacity? I mean, you look at numbers. But anyway, we're having, let her finish.
Okay, just the last one, as far as wetlands, I would ask for us to go over setbacks on that as well.
We'll get
A
with,
little bit more.
yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay.
I have to double check the 25 foot.
Okay,
It may be more already.
okay, awesome.
You got it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on.
I'm Laura Henty. I'm on 312 Johnson Road.
Where?
I wasn't really planning on saying anything tonight, but one thing that I've, in writing articles, I've been talking to a lot of folks about the averages, and apparently for riparian buffers, the average that the EPA suggests is 100 square feet. So I just, think we should probably take that into account.
All right, thank you. Next. Either one.
Bob Fetter, 101 Dowling Street. Thank you. Three things. Number one, I don't know what our process is going to be for the future, but if we're trying to do big changes now, maybe consider the accessory dwelling unit that Travelers Rest has already incorporated. Some other places have. I know it would solve at least a couple problems that
That's on my list.
has been before the Planning Commission before. What about condos?
Condos are good.
Okay. Thirdly,
They're not in the
then,
book, but they'll be put in the book.
okay, so last thing is just the way you define bed and breakfast. There's some changes that we need to consider there.
Call me, we'll look at that.
Okay. I think I've sent it to you before.
You did, but, yeah.
Thanks.
I can blaze through mine pretty fast. I'm Jessica Massey, and I live at 1992 Saluted Dam Road. And, but my biggest property concern would be my family's property on Linhart Road. So that's the largest part of my motivation. So that Linhart, the McKissick land that's coming up and being processed right now, that literally touches my family's property. So it's of great importance to me what goes down with that property. I understand that there's a lot of discussion on whether it can be annexed, whether it's contiguous, whether it might.
It is not contiguous.
Okay, so, but we've heard that they're maybe working on ways
They're
to.
trying to get sewer from there.
Get it, okay.
Okay? That's, unfortunately, I have nothing to say about that, and nothing to do about it.
Right.
I have something to say about it, but there's nothing to do about it. But it's difficult, because I understand your concerns. And I understand everyone's concerns. I mean, it's not like, hey, let's just blow up easily. It's not what I want to do. But that is, you need to talk to Combined Utilities, and you need to talk to Pickens County.
And we have been going to those
Yeah,
meetings. The
and
reason
keep
that.
doing that, and that way you can get it from firsthand what they're doing.
Right, the reason y'all haven't seen my face a lot is because I've been representing a county a lot more
That's fine.
than here.
Come anytime you want.
I know I do, but everyone meets on Monday nights, so
Yeah,
it's really
it's true.
hard. Because that's one of the secondary things that I had is I know you mentioned that you've tried to coordinate with county previously.
We've had some meetings in the past, right?
Right, so I was just gonna encourage, again, please coordinate with county, because right now there have been a lot of instances where it looks like each of you get to use the other as a scapegoat for
Yes.
for the
True.
density allowances. So I would just really push for that. I know when I spoke with Neil Collins about it, he was like, oh, well, that's what Pickens United is for. And then I went to Pickens United, and that didn't get touched on at all.
We do use each other as a scapegoat, there's no doubt. Something was brought up to me the other day about the density of apartments, which I had never designed apartments in Pickens County. But they said you only can have 8 per acre. And that sounds nice until if you have 100 acres, then you have 800 of them.
Exactly.
So that's why mine is actually a little less. So they haven't asked me my opinion, they're just giving me their opinion.
Right. So in that same vein, if that McKissick property were to be developed within city standards, if it were to get annexed, it would be outrageous what could happen out there. Daniel actually did the math on it when we first got involved with this.
It's 500 acres?
It's 660 something, 663.
600, right.
I think it's exactly 1 square mile, almost exactly. And it would be the 3rd most populous concentration in Pickens County. It would surpass Liberty, it would surpass Pickens, it would almost surpass Easley. It would be so
Density-wise,
huge.
yeah.
And I just don't believe that's sustainable for somewhere so far out in the county. It doesn't match the county, it's not contiguous with what we are looking for, and I don't think it matches the integrity of what the community is looking for
We
to
have
have out
not been
there.
asked.
Right.
I think to get to contiguous, I don't think it's feasible. Not saying it's not, that's a lot of money to spend on buying all those, all the way to get there. And if you touch it, you're one of the people saying no, hopefully, or whatever you want to do. And there's other people around there. It seems like everyone in that whole area is against it, so it's gonna be tough to get through it.
Right.
Right,
So,
so-
okay, well, I'm glad to
But
hear
can
you
it be
say
done?
that.
I'm not saying it can't be done, but I doubt they'll do it in his lifetime.
The sewer doesn't make it contiguous.
They have to own the land, or someone has to own the land. It's been done in the past on an easement, but Combined Utilities own the whole easement the whole way. So it's a right-of-way, not an easement. Make sense? The right-of-way is owned by somebody, and easement is owned by the people who own the land. So the DOT owns all the roads, because they have a right-of-way. You have an easement, well, I'm trying to think. You have the right to use that because it's a right-of-way. Easement is different. Easement is owned by, I'll own the land, and if I want the sewer to come through, I can give them an easement. But that doesn't give me the right to, that doesn't give the sewer the right to own the land. Make sense?
Okay, but if Combined actually owned it, then it could be.
They could be. Like I said, I'm not gonna say nothing can get done. It can get done. Will we do it? I sincerely doubt it. I mean, they may give them sewer, but they'd have to come through. Sewer is a different animal. If we deny, if they ask combined, and this is a combined question, it's not a Mario question, not a City of Beasley question. If they ask combined says, yeah, we'll serve it to you, they would have to come with pumps and pump it down right of ways, which means they're in the streets. That's gonna be, I don't know, I can't tell you what's gonna happen, I don't know.
Right. No, we know you don't have a crystal ball.
I do, but it always says no. It's one of those black ones.
But just really quickly, I wanted to add
Sure.
my name to the list of people that would like for you to look more closely at riparian buffers. Just like
Okay,
Laura
sure.
said,
Got
that
it.
was one that was important to me and on my list. And then I know you said that the apartment builders were complaining about the density.
Everyone complains, all developers
Right.
always complain.
Yeah, I know, but I was just gonna say, so sad, Little
Yeah.
Violin, we don't
They don't
have a
make as
lot of
much money.
sympathy because we would like to keep the way our community is.
It's one of those things where we all care about easily.
Mhm.
Even the people selling the land care about it after the fact. It's like, we had one person come in, they sold the land, and then she complained about the development.
Oh, bless.
Right, so what do you do in that situation, you go, but you sold the land, but I was making money on it. And ultimately, it's all about dollars.
Mhm.
Whether you're selling the land, you're developing the land, even buying houses, it's all interrelated. Can we do a better job? We're trying, we really are. I'm not trying to make a mess of Beasley.
Right.
I believe I have a lot of good ideas that I'll share at a later time, but right now, there's a lot going on, and we have to try to figure it out.
Agreed. So thank you for the work you have
Thank
done on
you.
it.
Last one? Come on.
Denise Davidson, 104 Killarney Way. Question, I just want clarification on the scheduling that you said. So you're still making changes because some of the stuff that I saw on the screen.
Yes, I'm still making changes.
Okay, so, and then you're saying next month it's going to the planning commission?
Correct.
Okay. So between now and next month, when is this document going to be reviewed by AICP professional?
I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I'll have to, we have money budgeted to do that, so I'll get with somebody and do it.
Well, I mean, because,
It can be a simultaneous process.
well, at some point, but if the council's gonna vote on it, which of course they have to, we need to know that this document is in its final, state, that it has, because you're talking about a legal document. So this is not a living document, it's not something, of course, there might be amendments or changes later on, but we need to know that all the changes are final and that they have been approved by a credentialed professional, so that we know moving forward, everything that we're doing is within the legal realm. Okay.
I'll get with I already got a contact with one, but I'll get with them tomorrow and finalize it.
All right, that was my question.
You guys ready to go home? Thank you all. Really appreciate y'all being here.
You like that detail? That was about ready to finish up and go home here.
No, I'm ready to go.
You got it. Oh, you just got here? What are you working, a 12-hour show? Well, I think I've had about enough for tonight.
I'm ready to go. Respond to calls, get reports done, and go check the city.
All right, keep us safe.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, you have a good day. All right.
problem.